So we're going to be talking about the FTC cracking down on influencers. This is a subject that we've touched upon many times on this channel. So if you like this video, give it a like. If you want to see more great content like we give every single day, then subscribe to the channel because it makes me feel good, it makes Gary feel good, and it's going to make you feel good when you get top-notch quality content just like this here. And of course, share it with your friends because this is important. Now, this is
Tony,
coming from PC Gamer. What's up, Gary?
I was gonna say, am I allowed to say fuck the FTC?
Uh, you're allowed to say it. I'm not sure if they're going to appreciate it, but you're allowed to say it. So, like I said, this comes courtesy of the PC Gamer. It says FTC looks to crack down on influencers and platforms over fake and manipulated reviews. So, Gary, you got to make sure you're playing those games when you're reviewing them. Can't be half-assing it no more.
Oh, I don't half-ass it. I played it nice and thorough.
You use your whole ass. All right. That's what we like to hear. All right. It says this was written by Andy Chalk. He says the agency has proposed updated guidelines aimed at addressing fake reviews, lack of disclosure, ding, 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 and stealth advertising to children. It says in 2019, the Federal Trade Commission, which is what the FTC stands for, issued a friendly, easy-to-understand digital booklet called Disclosures 101 for social media influencers. We've gone over this at least twice, I think, maybe 3 times. We went over this document. It's a little handy, easy-to-understand booklet. It's designed to help streamers and influencers understand when and how to disclose their promotional relationships with companies. Now it looks like the FTC is preparing to draw a harder line against stealth advertising and endorsement disclosure, as it has voted to consider updating its guidelines against, quote, fake and manipulated reviews. The FTC has been battling against deceptive online advertising for years. In 2015, for instance, it settled a case against Machinima Inc. over its failure to disclose the fact that it was paying its influencers for promotional videos. A year later, WBIE settled similar charges relating to a Middle-earth Shadow of Mordor promotional campaign. The ongoing problems helped prompt the creation of the Disclosure 101 primer, but the endorsement guidelines underpinning it were last updated in 2009, a geological span of time in the digital world. Thus, the FTC has proposed changes to its guidelines that reflect the extent to which advertisers has turned increasingly to the use of social media and product reviews to market their products. Kind of sounds like the stuff that we've been talking about here, Gary, in regards to the Amico and people not disclosing their relationships with the companies, making these
Right.
videos, having talking points given to them by the television company and then coming out and repeating them as if they've somehow discovered them or this is their actual thoughts.
I
Putting
mean,
people in videos that were, influencers or YouTubers or investors
I
without
mean,
disclosing.
right. You would think this is a no-brainer kind of thing, right? I mean, if you have any kind of integrity, which we know a lot of people that we deal with don't, right, Tony? I mean, they don't have any integrity. But myself, I try to be honest, and I know you try to be honest when you review games, or we're trying to give you our honest opinion here. But it's sad to see that this is a growing problem within gaming. It's just odd. You would think that people would understand, like, hey, people come to you for an honest view. Whether you like a product or not is one thing, but to just blatantly lie and do these manipulation tactics to get people to buy or invest or what have you. It's just sad to see that it's going on in gaming in general.
Yeah, you shouldn't be putting spin on things. You should just be laying out facts as they are or as you know them to be, right? That's what we do here. We just give you the facts and we allow you as the audience to decide whether or not you like the facts, whether or not you agree with company, you like what we said, you like what you heard. We're not trying to influence your opinion. I think that's the difference between us and people without integrity, like Gary was saying. Just another viewer says, 100% if you do a review, you should cite if you played the entire game or just a few hours. Dreamcast Guy and RGT suspect 1 and 2 of this. Yeah, we've discussed this before, whether or not you should have to, finish a game in order to do a review. I think it is something to note. You should, hey, I didn't get through the whole game, or hey, I did get through the whole game. Because certain games don't require it, right? Certain games are just the same thing over and over again. A shooter is going to be a shooter, going to be a shooter. Like I said, we've talked about this.
And to be fair, with just for reference, my review of Cotton Fantasy, I didn't get through the entire game playing it on harder difficulties. There was just I wasn't going to spend that time. I spent a good enough time playing it on the harder difficulty, and I did beat the game through on the the regular playthrough. But it is something where you can. I mean, it's not. I mean, I guess you could I didn't really point that out in my review. But I hope that people understood that at least. I mean, it's kind of hard, and and each game's different. I mean, if you're going into something like Elden Ring, right? I mean, how are you able to? I mean, you got to know your reviewer too, whether he's getting through, whether he does beat games on a on a review basis, if he gets through the entire game. To me, it's not a huge issue if I know if someone's not getting through the game or they are getting through the game, as long as they're spitting out what exactly if the game has issues or if it needs a patch or a good generalization of what the game is. If you pretty much give me the facts of what I need to know about the game, I'm pretty happy about it. Some people feel a little differently about that, but I try to do my best. I think sometimes we can let it slip under the radar. Everybody's human.
Like I said, I think it depends on the game. Obviously, if you get Elden Ring and your review is up within the first week, you probably did
right.
Probably a good guess.
Well, and you can always obviously a lot of people are really good about first impressions, right? I mean, you can release something and say, hey, this is my first impressions of the game. I've put in 20 hours in Elden Ring. Obviously, I haven't beaten it. We'll come back and touch on this again later, and that's probably the right thing to do.
Yeah. Just another viewer says, with Cotton Fantasy, isn't it the same story on each difficulty? I think it's the same story on each difficulty and with each character. Because you get a little screen that says this is from the point of view from Cotton.
Right.
At the beginning. But to continue on with this article, it says the proposed changes don't just target influencers. The notice of recommended revisions also includes a warning to social media companies that their influencer tools may not be adequate to meet legal requirements. Legal requirements, not just suggestions, not that their tools might not be adequate to meet what makes the FTC smile. Right? These are legal requirements, which opens them up to potential liability. It also says that companies making use of consumer reviews and promotional materials should not distort or misrepresent. That would mean taking clips of people's reviews and making it seem like it was a good thing when the whole review itself is a negative review.
Kind of like what Intellivision did, huh?
Yeah. What people actually think of their products, right? Micro-targeting specific audiences will also come under greater scrutiny under the proposed new rules. An example cited in the update notice: social media advertisement promoting a cholesterol-lowering product features a testimonialist who says how wow, this is really crappy English. Who says by how much they lowered their serum cholesterol. The claim reduction greatly exceeds what is typically experienced by users of the product, and a disclosure of typical results is required. The marketer has been able to identify from online data collection Spanish-speaking individuals with high cholesterol levels who are unable to understand English and micro-targets as a Spanish-language version of the ad to them, disclosing the typical results in English. The adequacy of the disclosure will be evaluated from the perspective of the targeted individuals. Wow, that was a lot of gobbledygook. To put it in layman's terms, they're basically saying is if you make an advertisement, right, that shows typical results, but then you target that advertisement towards a specific group, the results are no longer reflective of the group you're targeting, so the ad is not good, right? And in the example they cited, they're talking about Spanish language speaking people, and the typical results were for, say, typical American people. So those results might not be adequate uh, because in this micro group, the results are going to be wildly different. And that's the issue. Does that make sense, Gary?
Yeah.
It says child-directed advertising is also highlighted as being of special concern because children may, let's be honest, will react to advertising and influencers differently than adults, regardless of disclosures made. Practices which would not ordinarily be questioned in advertisements addressed to adults might be questioned in such cases, the FTC said. So what they're saying is for like kids, promoting a product to kids, even if you tell them, hey, I was paid to promote this, right? And they see, what the hell's that kid? The famous
Ryan.
One. Yeah, they see Ryan playing with the toy. And even if, there's a big flashing light saying Ryan was paid to play with this toy. Ryan actually hates this toy. Ryan's fucking being tortured, whatever. I don't think Ryan's being tortured. I'm just saying. The kids aren't going to pay attention to that shit, right? They're just going to see Ryan playing with the toy and having fun. They're like, oh, I'm going to buy that toy because Ryan's playing with it.
What's really odd is that this was going on for a long time before even the online age. Why the FTC is now just getting to this is kind of sad.
Well, it's one of those things where the laws have to catch up with the technology. It's the same problem that we have with the DMCA laws, where the laws were written for a specific time period, and now they're trying to apply them to the.
Well, what I'm saying is, even before internet age, I mean, they did this on TV. They did this to kids in the day.
They addressed it on TV. What happens is, in order for you to change it, right, you have to have like a lawsuit, and everything has to be done.
Right.
So until people complain, then you have to okay, people are complaining. Why are they complaining? Because of this particular piece of the law. So then they got the lawsuit, and then someone has to evaluate it, and then the government has to decide. Well, do we want to change that? Because FTC is a government organization, so now they have to, decide what they're going to change, and then you can have lobbyists. It's a slow moving process. It's not like overnight. Hey, the FTC chairman wakes up and like, hey, we're fucking changing everything, guys. So there is issues with the speed in which certain things get done. I mean, technically, Joe Biden could wake up and make a presidential, whatever the fuck they call those things, where he just writes with a pen, like, here you go. Fucking Joe Biden says, change this shit. But then everyone will be mad at him and all the lobbyists will.
Joe Biden's not writing nothing.
I'm just saying. He's the president. That's why I mentioned his name. It says online reviews and influencer endorsements are ubiquitous on the internet, and they present real and new challenges. FTC Commissioner Rebecca Slaughter. Well, that's a fucking name right there.
Slaughter.
If my last name was Slaughter, I'd definitely join the military. Only get to the rank of sergeant. Like, no. I only want to be Sergeant Slaughter. not General Slaughter, not Major Slaughter, just Sergeant. Said during an open commission meeting on May 19th. Unlike yesterday's celebrity endorsers, influencers are often seen as experts in their market, whether that's for fashion, health products, or cutting-edge consumer technology. I think that's another good point. In the old days, Michael Jordan tells you to eat your Wheaties or something, right? I don't think Michael Jordan's a Wheaties expert. If Shaquille O'Neal tells me to buy Cotton Fantasy, right? I don't view Shaquille O'Neal as a gaming expert. Whereas someone like a Metal Jesus Rocks or an RGT85, people actually look at them like they know about video games. They know, what games are good and what games are bad.
Right.
So I think, it's a little different. It's a different beast from before. Right. says influencers constantly interact with their followers in their market or social niche. These are often relationships of trust, which we've touched on before. Remember when Retro Bro, friend of the channel, but remember when Retro Bro says, I don't know why anyone would listen to me. Some guy named the Retro Bro to invest in Amico or to buy Amico products. And Cyrus Martin said the same thing, like, why would people listen to me? And I told him, I said, because your audience has built a relationship with you, a trust, right?
Yeah,
just like
whether you intended it that way is different.
Right. Like our audience here, they trust our opinion on certain things because they've watched us, they understand what we do, they believe that we're telling the truth. So when we say, hey, this is a good game or this is a bad game, they tend to believe us on that, right? And that's the same thing. Influencers with their audience, they do have a level of trust. People, we're not seen as celebrities, right? We're not seen as different from other people. We're just like you, right? He's just a guy on YouTube. He's just like me. So you think you can trust him. You think he's just a normal person. When the truth is, there's a lot of snakes out there, right? It says, these are often relationships of trust without clear guidelines and responsibilities. They're ripe for commercial exploitation and deception. The new guides make it clear that we intend to investigate breaches of that trust, whether it's by brands manipulating reviews, influencers not disclosing material relationships with companies. Man, it's a good thing that this is coming now and not like 2 years ago when the Amico was really hot. Because when the Amico was hot, if this was out there, which is exactly the thing that we've always highlighted, this lack of disclosing relationships with companies, or micro-targeting aimed at deceiving specific groups of consumers, groups of consumers like retro gamers, perhaps. The updated guidelines will also increase the focus on the role of brands and influencer promotions. There's a real concern about brands using unsophisticated influencers, maybe a certain DJ, and then trying to pawn liability for failure to disclose off on them. Ooh, so now they're saying, even though and television is using these guys, as we've said, they're not going to be scot-free, right? They're going to be held liable. Like, you knew that this person that you've entrusted with this information was an idiot, and this idiot was going to do things that violated FTC guidelines. So now you're just as responsible. You can't pawn off the buck. The buck doesn't stop with them.
That's the right thing to do.
Yeah, I agree. That's 100% the right thing to do. This will, obviously, if you put some liability, some responsibility on the brand will do a better job in picking who their influencers are.
Right. You got to set an example. And, going forward, I think a lot of people need to understand that and watch what they say, watch what they shill for, so to speak.
Yeah, that's why, like, on this show, we're constantly letting you know that Jim Ryan, Shigeru Miyamoto, Shiggy, good friend of the show, Susan, they all watch us. They all love us. They're all good friends of the channel. Only the biggest and best watch this show. Phil Spencer, I didn't want to forget you, Phil. I know you're a big fan of the show. Says brands have a real responsibility to make sure their influencers disclose that relationship. Again, these are things that we were saying for like the last 2 years, right?
Yeah, relentlessly.
And we were laughed at, we were mocked, we were told that we were idiots, we didn't know what we were talking about. But here it is, the FTC saying, hey, this is the kind of things that we need to step up our game because they've been flying under the radar, getting away with this stuff. Bomberny TV says this is all very good news. Shame it didn't happen sooner. Yeah, like I said, the wheels of justice move very slowly, but they do move. It says the proposed changes are aimed at all types of influencers, but the focus on promotional content targeting children could be especially troublesome for platforms like Twitch and YouTube. A 2019 Statista report via Backlinko found that 41% of Twitch viewers were aged 16 to 24, and nearly 3/4 were between the age of 16 and 34. But younger viewers weren't counted in the survey. 16 was the lowest age included. That makes it impossible to say definitively, but I'd be willing to bet that there are a lot of under 16s watching streamers regularly. In fact, I can think of 2 right off the top of my head, my nephews, who I'm pretty sure are not outliers in their particular demographic. This is a good point. YouTube, because of the laws and tracking children and stuff on the internet, as far as advertising goes, not like you obviously don't track people on the internet, especially not children. But I mean, like the advertisers being able to track demographics. You know, you're supposed to be 13 to watch YouTube. They got YouTube Kids for people under 13. It's almost like a separate thing, but you're supposed to be 13 in order to watch YouTube. So when YouTube does your demographics, when they give you the breakdown of your stats, obviously there's no one under 13, right? They don't count that. So this could have a big sweeping effect across YouTube. This could, I would almost argue, it might trigger an adpocalypse again on YouTube. Another one, just because channels like Ryan's Toy World are going to be fucking scrutinized.
Yeah, get them. That kid could retire, and his grandkids could. They don't even have to work. His grandkids don't even have to work. It's so sad.
I can just imagine he's going to be a bitter old man who can't look at toys.
Oh, when he hits 18, dude, he's going to be doing blow and messing with hookers. That kid's going to be that kid's going to be a troubled kid.
So I'm just saying, like, could you imagine he's like he's a grandpa, right? Ryan's Toy World, he grows up, he's a grandfather, and his grandkids are like, Grandpa never buys us toys. You want toys, kids? Fucking hate those things. Made me play with toys for 8 hours a fucking day on YouTube. Cameras in my face. Enjoy your mom. Shut the fuck up, kid.
Yeah.
He's gonna be bitter.
He's gonna be a troubled kid.
The rest of us are gonna, the rest of the kids in his age demographic are gonna have nostalgia. He's like, fuck this shit. Goddamn toys. What else we got? It says the FTC voted unanimously to send the proposed changes to the Federal Register, the office of the U.S. government that contains agency rules, proposed rules, and public notices. Another public event focusing on the ability of children to distinguish and understand advertising content and the need for effectiveness of disclosure to children is scheduled for October 19th. So see, this is still a little ways off for all these changes. Like I said, it moves slowly. But it looks like there's going to be a crackdown. It's not going to be good for a lot of channels. A lot of people are going to be swept up in this. Gladly, the Amigo is probably done. So those people are going to get away with all their lack of disclosures. That's all right. Dorkside says the extra lag is the extra content. That's what they didn't disclose yet. And Bomberny's right. You can't stop kids making a fake over 16 or whatever account. It really annoys me. It ruined the online gaming for games like COD, 18 plus games with kids running public voice chat. I know on the PlayStation 5 and the PlayStation Network, I should say, when you set up an account for a kid, there are games that'll be like, no, that kid's not old enough to play. Even if you sent parental controls for letting them play whatever, like Call of Duty, like, no, sorry, your account's a 13 and under account, or your account's under 16. Because Sidekick Max had problems playing games.
And I think this is the biggest problem. I think there's parents out there that are willing to say, look, I can set it up as a over the age account, and I'll monitor it myself. So it's not only, kids getting away with it. There's parents involved too with being okay with them having that, but just monitoring, the content that their kids play themselves. So.
Yeah. And like I said, it was so bad on the PlayStation Network that before Max became 13, it wouldn't let him watch YouTube. Like the app wouldn't work. It was like, no, sorry, your account is under 13. So, I mean, there are things in place, but there's not enough. And obviously, like Gary said, even though we have, you know, the ESRB ratings on games and stuff, parents are just buying whatever. And I'm guilty of it too, right? But, you know, I'm a gamer, so I'm like, yeah, I'm playing the game. I'll play fucking, what the hell is it, Call of Duty with my kid. They explain to him shooting people is not right. Or I'll play, what the fuck's that one? Red Dead Redemption. You know. Yeah, there are a lot of parents who just buy the games and hand them to the kids, and the kids go off and play them. And they get no understanding. They get no lessons. There's no one there monitoring them. So the FTC cracking down, I think this is a good thing. We don't have to worry here because we always disclose our relationships with people, companies, whether or not we got review copies, whether or not we know the devs. We talk to them on a regular basis or whatever. Anything else to add, Gary, before we move on?
No, I think we covered that pretty good.